Welcome, everybody, to the 100-Year Lifestyle, where we are transforming health and longevity worldwide so that you and your loved ones can live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And season 4 is in full swing with a young old friend who is doing amazing work in the world, Patrick Porter with BrainTap. Hello, my friend. Thank you for joining us once again.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
You guys are just making some moves, man. You are helping. I think what you're doing at BrainTap and how you have studied the importance of the brain and how to optimize your function as a human being in the world, in meditation and all of that. I think it's just world-class work. So first, I want to congratulate you on everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're doing it to better a billion brains. So you're helping us accomplish that mission. So thank you.
Yeah, so I want to certainly, you have a new platform, a new app, which we're going to talk about later. We have a new program within that app, the 100-Year Lifestyle program we collaborated on. We'll talk about that. But I think why all of that is relevant and important today is, the big topic here in the world is artificial intelligence. And it's not going away. And we talked about this a little bit before we started. We talked about that we need more actual intelligence in the world versus artificial intelligence, and why taking control of your own brain is so important. From a BrainTap perspective, from a human performance perspective, longevity perspective, give us your input. I know you're doing all kinds of research out in the world. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think there's good and bads to AI, but let's just talk about why we need to have our own intelligence rather than that. First of all, the brain is an energy hog. It uses 25% of all the resources, energies, everything in the body. So if it can let something else or someone else do its thinking for it, it's going to do it. And that's the problem we have today with social media and television and news. Really, we're in a massive propaganda to freak us out because fear shuts down the brain. Fear and stress shut down the brain. So when you think about that, so when you have fear, you automatically go into a reactionary mindset. Now, that's not a growth mindset. Like what you talk about in the 100-Year Lifestyle, we need a growth mindset, not a fear-based mindset. So if you're watching the news, if you're listening to the naysayers, the reality is that we have a 100 billion neural bit processor. To put it into perspective for the listeners, they have done autopsies on people who have died. Their brain has been no thicker than a piece of bologna.
Wow.
And nobody in their family, none of their friends, they were running businesses, they were running their lives, and nobody knew that they didn't have a brain.
Wow.
So what can we do with a real brain, with a full brain? So what I tell people is at BrainTap, our mission is not to teach you what to think. You do that. What we're going to teach you to do is how to think. And the main thing we need to learn what to think about is what was our past? Because our past, whether we like it or not, is dictating our present and future projection of who we are. But we can reset that or reframe it. And when you're talking about developing your vision for your 100-year lifestyle and things, that's a big part of the program, is that if the brain has a milestone, if the brain has a goal, in other words, your brain is a goal-striving organism. This was mentioned in Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics, years ago. And those who don't know him, he was basically a plastic surgeon that realized every time he would do these people would look beautiful when they come out of surgery, but they still have a negative attitude about themselves. It didn't change their self-esteem or their self-confidence. And he started realizing the change really needs to be inside. So then we believe the same thing, that to think differently. For instance, if you treat your world as a series of challenges rather than a series of threats, your immune system is going to work better. Something called psychoimmunology. And this is controlled by your brain. 25% of the time, there's a saying in psychology that 25% of the time, every person you see goes unconscious. So, there's times during the day you're doing things on autopilot. Now, what happens is you've trained yourself to do what you do when you go unconscious. Those automatic programs, and those unfortunately show up more under stress, right? That's why if you've ever been in a relationship and your significant other goes, "You're acting just like your father, you're acting just like your mother." It's because that's who taught us, and the neat thing right now for the listeners to understand is that we are not dictated our external environment does not have to dictate who we are. Now, if we go on autopilot, we know that your environment does even change your genetics. It changes your expression. Actually, every 40 seconds, all DNA pairs change every 40 seconds. So that means based on the food you consume, the air you breathe, the water you drink, the people you hang out with, all of these things. When Charlie's Tremendous Jones said you're the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with most, or the 5 books you just read, the reality is that those things are all true.
Yeah, it's true. And I want to say too, because so many people today, we are so programmed without realizing we are programmed. We go unconscious without realizing we're unconscious. And, Stephen Covey, you're using all these quotes from all these like icons in history, pre-artificial intelligence, who help people define themselves. I love his quote where he said, people climb the ladder of success only to get to the top to realize the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And so that's what happens when artificial intelligence controls our unconscious being, is that we end up in places that's like, how did I get here? How did we get here? And, so much of society is getting off center. We have to learn to trust our innate intelligence again and to go back inside, which is a lot of what you're saying from a research perspective and a lot of the things that you provide the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I think needs to happen more than anything else is when you have a problem, you need to look for multiple solutions. There's not going to be one solution. You can't just go to AI and say, what do I do? Then that's going to, that AI was programmed by somebody. It wasn't just some benevolent creature that decided to give it to us. But we have our own AI, right? That's our subconscious. So we need to train it to look at problems again as challenges. And then what is the best, because all problems have solutions and all solutions have problems, and we live in a world of duality. So, the person that looks at every solution without their problems, that's when they get off course, when they put that ladder up against the wrong building. So we need to have some benchmarks that say, hey, like for our health, for instance, most people know that excess sugar, smoking, drinking, being overweight, these are all things that I don't care who you are and what your attitude is. If you reverse those things or, diminish your amount of toxins you put into your body, you exercise, you eat healthy. I mean, I don't think you get an argument from anybody. You don't need AI to tell you that. But the reality is that people are depending upon AI to tell them that, because they give it away to their smartwatches, their smart devices. And then they go, oh, I can eat it. I can eat this because my smartwatch says this. The reality is that we have to make the old saying that common sense is no longer common. And I think that's what's happening. Even with weight loss, when people are thinking about that, I say, it's a really simple, I call it the I Love Lucy diet. If you go back in time and you watch one of the I Love Lucy episodes, I love the one with Ethel and her, they're at a fountain, where they're having a sandwich and a drink, and they're splitting a sandwich, and they're having a small tumbler of soda. Now, even though soda's not good for you, that little tumbler is not going to do as much as a super gulp, and all these things. And of course, if we got served a half a sandwich in America, we would be jumping up and down screaming. But the number one thing you can do for longevity is undereat. That's been proven. Mice, rats, every animal they've ever done an experiment with, if they lower their caloric intake, they're going to live longer. So that just makes sense. So, when we think about it, but what's the problem we have is that our emotion drives behavior. And there's a saying in my book that I love, that I say all the time since the 90s when I wrote it, is you get what you rehearse in life, not what you intend. So when you think about your rehearsal, you have this 100 billion neural bit processor called the human brain. There is no AI that can even compete with its potential. Now, the reason that it can do it is its focus, but we all have that potential. We are all Cray supercomputers 100 times X. We can do incredible things. And as long as we keep giving away that power, like I said in the very beginning, the brain will give it away gladly because it wants to conserve energy. It's self-preservation. And when we get to be 27 and our genes start expiring, because that's the genetic code that we've been given, they've even shown, like Deepak Chopra's study he did in his book, I think it was one of his first books about health. He talked about taking the group of people out into the country, put them in a home. They lived in the 50s. All the music was the 50s, clothes were the 50s. They actually reversed aging. So that kind of puts a monkey wrench in their belief that time only goes one way. The arrow of time doesn't go one way. The arrow of experience does, as long as you're on the road to demise. But you can do things today to psych yourself up, to set up your environment, to do things. And it means you have to have vigilance, but not vigilance in the fact that there's a danger coming. There's this gloom and doom that's coming. I believe we live in the best time in history, and that sure, there's crazy people out there that seem like they want to hijack our consciousness and they want to kill us. I mean, for lack of a better word, this is a sci-fi movie from the 60s, nobody could imagine. But the reality is that you are still the lead character in your play. So
yeah, and let me add, and I think what you just said is really important. And if you have not been, welcome to this podcast, welcome to this episode, because it's time to take it back. And, I often say, artificial intelligence, I put it in the same category as artificial color, artificial flavor, and artificial everything else. There's a place for it, maybe, but maybe not for you or I, maybe for our business, maybe for a cake that we're making for somebody and we want it to look pretty, but we're not going to eat the whole thing. But, we have to take our mind back and trust our gut, trust our innate intelligence again. And you mentioned something about the genetics, which maybe we'll build on a little bit. I just did an interview with a 3x4 Genetics. Her name is Yael Jaffe. It's a great company. They do genetic testing. And what they have shown and what they have found, that it's not your genetics, and we know this because we've done all the research and we've seen all the research, that your lifestyle choices will determine how your genes show up in the world, how they express themselves in the world. And so all of these things, from weight loss that you're talking about, and the direction, the compelling vision that you have versus the artificial intelligence vision that somebody's trying to give you, these are all conscious choices that at some point, all of us listening, we have to take our brains back, which is what I love about BrainTap. And I was telling you, I brought my BrainTap here. I got it. I use it all the time because I can choose from a menu of things on the direction, and I've listened to it without going all in under the consciousness and the spell, let's say, of the meditations that are provided there. You consciously listen, you say, okay, do I want that in my brain? Do I want that in my spirit? Do I want that to guide me? Do I want to wake up believing and thinking in that way every day? And so if I make that conscious choice, we should make, Patrick, I believe that we should make that conscious choice when we're looking at our social media, when we're looking at our phones, when we're watching a YouTube video, that it's time for us to let our consciousness and our gut feeling and our innate begin to drive us again. So talk to us from your perspective, about how this process of educating yourself, inspiring yourself unconsciously with some of these programs that you're providing, obviously 100-Year Lifestyle is one of them now. Right. Why is it important to make those choices and take the time out of the insanity of the world to do those things?
Well, number one, the biggest thing missing in most protocols for wellness is recovery. You can't just do. We're human beings, not human doings. So, you have to be. So when even the Bible says, be still and know God, so when we're still, in the stillness is when we get to see how we sit in the eye of the hurricane, we can see the storm swirling around, we can choose what to take action on. But if we never, and even quoting Stephen Covey, you got to sharpen the saw, right? You can't just go and cut down the tree. So the biggest thing that we do is we're going to get you outside of time. And how we do that is through brainwave activity. We have those brainwaves all the time anyway, some people more than others, but those creative people, those people that get into what would be called the alpha theta brainwave, that's when you disengage that sympathetic system. And right now, unfortunately, everybody has their foot mashed on the gas and the brake at the same time, and the nervous system is going, what in the heck should I do? And really, we have to practice really disengaging the nervous system and engaging the nervous system. This is something we can measure with heart rate variability, of course, that a lot of people know about on their smart devices, which I don't think that's a bad thing if you're using it to notice. And then, you You don't have to wear it all the time. You know, I do have an Oura ring. I don't have it on right now, but every once in a while, I'll just go back and do a 7-day sleep study just to make sure everything's going right. But I think what happens with BrainTap is when you get into this field of infinite possibility, the limitations of consciousness, and this is something to do with quantum fractal mathematics too, and everything that's going on in our world. The quantum world acts differently than the physical world. And we're now realizing that we are quantum field generators. In fact, even NIH now has, not the drug part of the NIH, there's actually a natural medicine part. And what they talk about is the biosphere. We actually have an energy field. It's no longer metaphysical, it's science. And you can measure it. Like, for instance, your heart rate can be measured 18 feet away from your body. Now, the brain is different. We need to put probes on the head because it's very weak emission of electrons, like for an EEG or something. But what we know is that when you settle down, when you relax, when you focus on your breath, then your field, this field intensifies, strengthens. So you can think of it like the shield. You know, we have this shield around us. We have this biofield. Now, the stronger that field is, the more you direct your awareness. The weaker that field is, like through fear and anxiety and stress, then the more you're controlled by the masses, because it's almost like there's this underlying consciousness of the herd mentality that we all have. You know, how many people do we still see wearing masks when they've been proven over and over again that it's detrimental to our health, that it's causing more problems? It never, I mean, but they're still wearing it, right? That's called the law of the lie. Even though something's been proven false, some will still believe it to be true. And so people will just hang on to it. So I think the main thing BrainTap does is we need to take an assessment. We need to reframe our past. Whatever your liabilities are, whatever you think your limitations are, let's reframe them right now. Those were incubators for your superpower, because you're going through that, because once you master it as a human family, as a community, which we need to live 100 years and beyond, we need to share that information. How did we do it? You know, if I climbed the mountain 10 minutes faster than you climbed it on your trail, you might ask, hey, what trail did you take? And I'm going to tell you about the trail. And then if you follow my trail, you're going to get to the mountaintop 10 minutes faster. You know, there's a lot of people out there right now climbing to the top of that ladder, but most people don't know who they are, what's going on. So that's part of what things like this are all about, is educating people. But realize the brain doesn't work so fully with affirmations if you don't believe them. If you believe them, they work great. But if not, it works best with questions. So what would your life be like if you lived to be 100 years? You know, what are you planning? The problem is most people have never planned it. And then when they get there, they go, wow, I'm against the wrong building, right? So what BrainTap does is gives you time outside of space and time. The underlying reality of all things is consciousness. So think of that consciousness as a primordial soup that allows you the building blocks of your perception of reality. And if you're willing to magnify, if you will, through your thoughts, because they know thoughts are magnetic. You know, that's why most everybody listening to this has probably had the experience where they talk about somebody they haven't talked about in months or years, and then you get a letter from them, an email, a phone call, a text, because we're all quantum entangled. So the more we recognize as a culture, and we all fly together, you know, birds of a feather flock together. The more we're together, the more we believe, the more we synergize around infinite possibilities, the more this world that is so limited, so fear-based, will crumble. Because the reality is that we have a lot of choices, and that's where BrainTap takes you.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, it's interesting because in some of our previous episodes, what is happening in the world as it relates to the 100-year lifestyle, for example, and is that there is a longevity industrial complex now forming in the world. What this mothership of trying to frame the world in the way that it is, what they are doing is they've realized, you know what? People adapted to this craziness, and a lot less people died than we thought were going to die. And yes, we got a lot of people to do a lot of things that are ultimately going to be bad for them. But you know what? These people, if they survived the last 3 years, their likelihood of living to 100 is greater than it's ever been. And it's now still one of the fastest growing groups, even post-COVID. And in fact, the life expectancy, and you probably know this, life expectancy has gone down for the first time to the lowest level since World War II. And I tell people all the time, you know what happened in World War II, right? There was a World War and a Holocaust, and it's dropped literally to the lowest level since World War II. But what is interesting in how that life expectancy has dropped, people age 65 and older, it's only dropped by like 0.1 year, 0.1 year, while the babies and the kids and the 20-somethings and 30-something, it's dropped by like 14%, 16%, 18%, because of the way they have tried to target everybody, but the older generation, they've been through it. And so their adaptation skills as individuals is much stronger. And so we want not only those, but we want every generation to realize that, yes, you have this birthright time, not borrowed time, that you have this innate potential, and you get to choose what you think about things. And so, you know, what I love, and you did a great job, by the way, you're like a machine, how you pop out these amazing sessions that are meditative in so many ways. I enjoy them, and you did a great job, I think, expressing the different segments of 100-Year Lifestyle that are in this program. And there's so many good different programs in the BrainTap app. But we go over creating a compelling vision, changing your life, harnessing innate energy, finances for longevity, so that you could literally choose your own life. And you're doing such a great job of that. So what was it like for you to collaborate with 100-Year Lifestyle in this way? I mean, we've shared the platform together and at seminars in different places, and it's always fun to do that with you. What was it like creating this? Because you did it like it was like, bam, you just popped it out.
Well, the nice thing was, you know, when you read something that about at least 80% I was aware of on some level and love, and then you get to read about the new stuff that you've come up with 100-Year Lifestyle. To me, you know, I'm not a young chicken anymore. You know, I want to be that 124-year-old as well that's able to go out there with their great grandkids and show them how to play baseball. You know, in the things like that. So, I mean, it fits right in with my model. I still feel like I'm a 19-year-old in a 60-year-old body, you know, and I think it's really important that people think that way. You know, like it said, never let an old person inhabit your body. That's the first thing that breaks everything down. But what I love is that you have a very succinct process. The brain loves processes and procedures. It loves formulas. It loves something. And no, I think if somebody read the book, your 100-Year Lifestyle book, and they listen to our sessions, they're not going to argue with any piece of information there. It's not just true. The body resonates with that. When the body resonates with truth, it actually adds energy. You know, it's like when you get those goosebumps when somebody says something. And I think when people read the 100-Year Lifestyle or they do the sessions, they're going to go, they know it's true, that they've been lied to. You know, of course, the insurance companies are betting, which is weird. They're betting for us, right? They want us to live longer. But I'm talking about now the life insurance people. The other insurance, I don't know what's wrong with them. They should incorporate more of these, you know, we need to get these, if they really want their premiums to go down, they need to incorporate these lifestyle changes, you know, and they'll find that they won't get sick as much. Most things can be handled by a wellness practitioner like a chiropractor or an ND, and you just use the sickness care when you get an injury. You know, that's what it was meant to be.
Here's to common sense over nonsense. What do you say?
Yes, there you go. Exactly. Exactly. And I felt that, you know, if I didn't know anything about longevity, if you and I had never talked and I was when you gave me your book, I would have been so excited about life again. You know, if you're out there right now going, it's not worth living, I don't know what's going to happen, you need to get the book, because the reality is that life is what you make of it. And you have to plan that life. If you let life happen to you instead of happen through you, there's big problems. So, you know, the old saying about the chicken, you know, the chicken's powerful because it gets its power from, you know, it gets enlightenment from within and breaks the egg from the outside. If you break the egg from the inside, if you break the egg from the outside, the chicken dies. So, you know, the same thing's true with us. They're trying to break us from the outside. The reality is that we all have an innate intelligence that is super conscious, super aware. When you're doing what you need to do all day long, guess what? Your body's doing what it does all day long, and it's taking care of you. So if you can add the right, if you can add the best AI is your AI. It's not artificial at all. It's super conscious. You are a super conscious being. You are a genius. I don't know how many times people have to tell you that, those people listening. The problem is you can't say that out loud until you demonstrate it within yourself. So you take your life, and the nice thing too about the 10 processes we did is that somebody could listen to those for the next 10 weeks, and their transformation would be magical. And if they read the book along with it, now you got I always say, if there's conscious commitment and subconscious action, there's a galvanizing force that is beyond that, a synergy that allows this to really amplify the outcome. Because the real deal is sometimes we make a change in our life, we don't see the results right away, and then we get discouraged. This is not if you're going to plan to live 100 years and beyond with health in mind, then you don't have to rush. There's no rush. Slow down, take a breath, enjoy time with your family, enjoy time with your friends. Figure out that, each day, those principles that you talk about, the 3 main principles, like the persistence principle and things of that nature, this magnetic principle. These are all things that I think can be guiding more of humanity. I mean, they make sense, so it's like, to me, it was exciting to see that there was a potential of doing something together. When we first met, I remember at Life University, and
I remember our dinner down in Florida, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you said, and so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit what you said, that innate intelligence is even more powerful than the AI, artificial intelligence. And yes, while the AI might have its place, but it will never be a substitute for your innate intelligence. And, having that compass and that quiet time that you talk about taking to just block out the world and just kind of center yourself with the thoughts that matter, the thoughts that you choose, and to feed your spirit in that way, that will never get old, and that will never, ever, ever go out of style, and that will always be cool as far as I'm concerned. So, Patrick, you're doing great stuff. Give us some closing thoughts. Where can they find you? How can they get the app? I know they can get it on 100yearlifestyle.com. We have an ad running there for it. It's right on the homepage there, and it's pretty exciting. But there's so many other things that are a part of this app. We're just like one tiny piece of the great work that you're doing and the research that you're doing. So how can people find you?
Well, I would definitely recommend they go to 100-Year Lifestyle and get it from there, because they'll get access to the whole app. We didn't limit it to the 100-Year Lifestyle. So they'll get access to over 2,000 different sessions. They can always go to BrainTap.com, read about us, learn about us. They can follow me on social media and I put out videos almost every day. They're cutting up my talks and things like that into little pieces of information that is now, I guess people have the attention span of a goldfish. So they have these little reels that they do. So but it's at Dr. Patrick Porter, Dr. Patrick Porter. If you go you'll see us everywhere. But yeah, we're just excited, and we're always adding new information. Like with the other one that we just added was with another chiropractic friend, Joel Rosen down in Florida, and he put out, we're doing a program called Overcoming Overwhelm, and we did that for so many people seem overwhelmed, and it's really just getting back to the simplicity of our life and really focusing on what really matters, and building that life. Like I said, the I Love Lucy kind of model, we need to get back to basics, and technology is great, but you need to have a break from technology too. And I'm a technology company, so I think that that's important, and you need to use technology for good. And that's why we have BrainTap.
Yeah, I love that. And remember, the ultimate technology is right inside of all of you. So Patrick, once again, great. Can't wait to see you on the road somewhere. Appreciate your time, all your hard work and efforts. BrainTap's doing an amazing job. And remember, everybody, listen, your 100 is coming. You make the call. Here's to living at 100% for 100 years and beyond. Thanks for being with us today.